Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson. As always, before we get started, we want to say thank you to Jehovah. Thank Him for His Son, Jesus Christ. Thank Him for our families. Thank Him for work and our ability to do the things we're able to do. Book of Dad Radio Show, engineer extraordinaire Eddie G. What's going on, man?
What's up, Soul? How you feel, man?
Soul, I love it, man. Iceberg Slim calling me Soul.
That's all right.
There's some nicknames from up north, man. Hey, hopefully everybody's doing well. We're glad you're tuning in to check us out. Got a very, very special show for you today. As we mentioned before, this is Women's History Month. So we want to stay with that mantra and zero in on the fact that this is vigilant women of the vote refusing to be silenced. We have a person with us today who has a great voice, can't silence her. As a matter of fact, you all know her as Yvette Money from the Wayback Machine in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Yvette Money, what's happening? How you doing?
Hi, how are you? Thanks for having me
Doing
on
great.
your show.
All right. Absolutely. You know, we are so excited that you're here with us today. Me and Eddie G have been kind of reminiscing over some of the things you've done in the past, being from that area and in that era, as a matter of fact. So talk to us a little bit about, what you did back then and how come people know you as Yvette Money and some of the old wars you were a part of back in the day.
Well, I'm considered the old school hip hop artist. Dear Yvette, as you would say, a lot of people know me from doing the answer to LL Cool J, Dear Yvette's record, Yvette's Revenge. And I was Money Do Money before Yvette Money. So when I was asked to do that record, I just collaborated the two and took the money off of Money Do Money and made it into Yvette Money. That's how Yvette Money came about. My record company wanted to name me Yvette Roxwell or something, and I said, nah, we're not doing that. Yeah, that just didn't fit me. So I like the word money behind it because, I was on a paper chase. So, but that's how Yvette Money became about. And
Wow.
and actually,
No, I was just saying, it's like this is Women's History Month. And women have, definitely mightily contributed to just about every genre that we're a part of. Take a second or two before Eddie G rolls in and talks. You, ask you a couple of questions, and talk to us about how women have impacted the rap industry as well.
Oh, man, it was a fight and it was a battle to get into, the actual hip hop industry because it was, dominated by, male. All the males because, they started out with, graffiti and then they, went into pop rock and dance, and that was all dominated by men. And the whole hip hop era, when that began, you would just hear men all the time. And women was like, look, we can do this too, But it was a fight and it was a battle, but we won. Eventually they had no choice but to let us in the doors and actually, it didn't stop from there. But it was hard. It was hard to be accepted, but if you could prove yourself, and once you were able to prove yourself that you can rhyme and you had lyrics, hey, they had no choice but to welcome us,
Well, see, when women get involved with anything, it seems like they start to accelerate and take over. I know at that time when you came out, and then you had like Queen Latifah, you had Salt and Pepper and all those young ladies coming out, and it was transformation to the hip hop world because, like you said, it was mostly male dominated, but the women added a little bit of something different. They added some sexuality, but they also added a different style, because if you think about it now, if you look at ESPN, there's a lot of women who are the anchors and stuff because they realize men watch sports and men like women. So you put two and two together, right? Same
When you
thing with
start
rap.
getting tired, men start getting tired of looking at men all day. You have to add some sex appeal to it,
There you go.
and a nice, soft, pleasant voice, to the game. So, we added that touch, to hip hop. But, our sex appeal was a lot different, because we still have female artists who dressed like actual the fellas. They would wear
Yeah,
Adidas
yeah,
sweatsuits with with the lace shoestrings, Adidas sneakers and all that stuff. But we still added, sex appeal without overdoing, our without exposing a lot of skin and everything
Right,
back then,
right.
like some of the hip hop artists do today.
right.
So, and I think after the guys opened the doors to us and embraced women into hip hop, it put a lot of smiles on their faces once they see the women, busting the door and like, what now? We here.
Right, right,
Yeah, yeah.
right.
And they smiled and gave us hugs, So
Mm-hmm.
it was a
Well, that's
good
great.
thing.
I tell you, those weren't smiles. Those were Chester Cat grins is what they were. So, but the thing I
Yes.
want to talk to you about now is that you parlayed that into an MCing career over the radio stations and such. So talk to us a little bit about what the difference between is being an MC, if you will, or DJ versus a rapper. Is there personality involved? Are you in fact acting, or are you being yourself, or how are you doing both within either genre?
Well, there is some acting involved, as far as, a lot of animation involved when you're rhyming. And also it's a lot of truth to it too as well, where you don't even have to act. Because some
Mm,
people, when they're rhyming, they're actually like freely, expressing themselves, things that they've been through, or they know other people who actually been through um, certain situations that they rhyme about. That's sometimes where the actual thinking process begin is all relatable. And then you have some with the storytelling,
mm,
as far as rhyming, where that's more animated, and it's not truthful what they're rhyming about, but it was the story that was intriguing and draw you in. MCing and rhyming um, are pretty much the same thing if you're not talking about DJ MCing. Like DJ MCing is totally different. You're getting a party hype,
mm,
while you're DJing, and you have the MC who rocks, that rock the mic and get the crowd hype. Uh, if that's what you were asking, as far as the difference between rap and MCing, what
mm.
that's what you were talking about as far as radio MCing or rhyme
That's a
rhyming MC.
that's, that's a good point, and good question to make me clarify what I really was really asking, because that kind of segments DJing off into or MCing off into two separate areas. One where you're actually entertaining or hyping the crowd, or if you're doing like what we're doing right now, if you're spinning records over the airways and those types of things, you are considered a radio personality. And that's a good question for my question for clarity. So, is there another caveat you want to add to that, being a radio personality?
Radio personality, to me, I mean, everybody who's in radio, um, I guess, have their goals of what they want to uh, present to the public and their audience, who they want to draw in. And when I was radio personality, I wanted people that I wanted to draw in to be able to relate to me in my era and take them back, And I learned that from being on radio with Lady B, and whenever you were on their show, it will always take you back to that time where it was good and it was great, and and that hip hop era where we all could relate to it. So when I became a host for my own show, that's what I wanted to bring to the table too, something relatable to my audience.
Wow, that's a great answer. And we got a great guest. This is the Book of Dad radio show with my main man, the great engineer, Eddie G. And we're talking with Philadelphia hip hop icon, Yvette Money. And we're going to continue this discussion with Yvette when we come right back. Book of Dad radio show. It's Dr. Robert Benson. We'll be right back.
See why listeners from over 150 countries around the world follow the Book of Dad radio show. Join Dr. Robert Benson and Eddie G as they chat with special guests who share their stories and information that will change your life. Watch and listen on lifeandspiritonline.com or subscribe to the Book of Dad radio show on Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or wherever you get your podcast. Brought to you by the NASCA Network.
Hey, welcome back to the Book of Dad radio show with Dr. Robert Benson and me, Eddie G. Today we have a special guest, our good friend, hip hop artist extraordinaire, Yvette Money, and she is here talking to us about her journey. Since it is Women's History Month, we figured we would get some important women, and she's very important to the hip hop world. She has, I would say, been one of the pioneers because she was early in the game, and she knows a lot of things that went on behind the scenes, and that's what I want to ask you about. As far as the progression to getting a deal from, just being an artist on your own, how was that process? Do you feel it was easier for you or harder for you because you were a woman?
At the time, I think it was a lot easier for me because I was a woman, because people like Lady B and Roxanne Shante, Sparky D, right before me, opened the door to where they were actually looking for women. At the time that I stepped on the scene, when Dear Yvette came out, like that Answer record was something that was popular when Roxanne Shante did it. So as soon as LL Cool J did Dear Yvette, it was like, we gotta find a Yvette. And so they were actually looking for someone to do Yvette. And I was rapping on Lady B's Street Beat show, and they were waiting for me as soon as I walked out the door. And I had a record deal like the next day. So for me, it was easy. And I have to thank, Lady B and Roxanne Shante and Sparky D, because they had it a lot harder than I did, because they had to prove themselves so much more, becoming female, artists into the game. But me, it was pretty easy for me. I can speak for myself, but it was.
Now, was Lady B, was she the first female rapper?
On wax.
On wax.
Okay. On wax.
All right.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
The first female rapper Yeah. Well, she's still not rapping.
Right.
She's definitely a icon, and as far as hip hop, and also on radio. So she's still on radio, still doing her thing, on 107.9. Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting you mentioned that, because I'm a firm believer in you're going to do what you're capable of doing. Now, some people get an opportunity before others or later than others, but the opportunity, you have to perform. And that's what you did. You were able to take advantage of that opportunity, nepotism, whatever. You performed when you got the chance to do so. But I want to shift gears a little bit, and I want to ask a question about the rap industry and hip hop in general. First, before I ask you the question I want to ask you is, where did the name hip hop come from? I hear it all the time. Rap is kind of understood, why it's called rap. But why and where did the term hip hop come from? I have no idea.
To be honest with you, and it may sound a little jacked up, that I don't know where the actual term hip hop came from. It's just something that we started to flow with.
Yeah.
You know, I just picked up on the language. But as
Mhm.
far as exactly that terminology, I can't even tell you because, because if I do, I want to make sure that I give credit to where credit is due to the right
Of course.
person. But you make me
Right.
want to look that up myself. But really, I don't.
Well, yeah, that's a good point.
I
I mean,
just
because I
think,
mean, you think about.
yeah, I just think when it changes, when each era changed, they call it their own for some reason. I
Mhm.
believe,
Yeah.
you know, but I'm not sure.
Like the term hip is very, very popular. You heard hippie, you had hip. Tower of Power made a piece years back called "What Is Hip," and then now we
Yeah, I like
hear
that
hip hop.
song.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
So now let me ask you this question about the rap industry. The rap industry or rappers seem to have this catapult, if you will, of being able to jump into various different genres. I mean, some of the greatest actors in the industry today are former actors. You got Mark Wahlberg. Of course, we mentioned Queen Latifah earlier, and the great Will
Yeah.
Smith. I mean, they are just a few of the former actors former rappers who are actors and have done extremely well. Uh, what are some of the things that you think are the reason why they're successful? And then you've used that yourself to propel you into other areas as well.
Well, if it kind of goes back to what you were saying when you asked me the question, is it acting? It was
Mm-hmm.
something like that you asked me early on. And I said, yeah, some of it is. And I think that it showed, especially like if you look back at Will Smith with the whole storytelling. And
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, I was never able to do a video for Yvette's Revenge or The Other Side of Me, any of my singles that I put out. But when you look at the Will Smiths and Queen Latifah, you can actually, if you are a director or a writer, you can actually see you know how they act out their parts for a lot of their videos with the storytelling. And they just had that a lot of these movie producers and directors were looking for. And Will
Mm-hmm.
Smith is a prime example. And I think that he really opened the door for a lot of other actors. I mean, for a lot of other hip hop artists to actually grow into the film industry. And it came from Girls in the World Ain't Nothing But Trouble. That was hilarious. That video was funny, it was storytelling, and it was a lot of acting involved. And it actually led him to do Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And they
Mm-hmm.
like, listen, these what we were, we were kids to them back then, but these kids are on to something. They're not only hip hop artists, they have that it too for the filming industry as well. So I think that's what opened the doors to that.
And I
Oh,
think
Senator, I'm sorry.
also the way
Hmm.
things work now, a lot of people they get to plan out their career. I know in your situation, the opportunity came up and you were ready and you snatched it. But I see how some people now, being young entrepreneurs, they plan it all out. They build a brand, they get merchandise, they build their social media following and all those things, and they parlay that into a couple of different streams of income, which I think is pretty smart. And that's the way the young people think today, which is great. Back then, it was about getting a deal and then figuring it out from there. So I think that
Right.
things are a whole lot better. What do you think about how it is now?
Well, the music is not. The opportunities, yeah, they are. And it's just like with any industry, like basketball, Julius Irvin, and they didn't have the same opportunities as LeBron and, Kobe. They weren't making that money. They weren't getting those type of endorsements, as they are today. So I think it's just with growth and with growth and actually knowing the worth of hip hop from other investors out there, they're actually realizing like hip hop is here to stay. It's not going anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and and it's bringing in millions. So
Yes.
other investors want to jump on that bandwagon as well and make millions. So they present these opportunities out there to a lot of hip hop artists, and a lot of the hip hop artists, they living and they're learning. You know, they're learning from people of our past like MC Hammer, who made millions
Mm-hmm.
and then lost millions.
Yep.
So
Yes.
I think that living and learning, we're becoming a lot smarter with the game, as well as investors are too. That, hey, the money is here and we don't have no choice. It's not going anywhere. Let's invest in these people. And then us as the people are saying, hey, you got to pay to play. You know, you want us, you want to do this, it's going to cost you some money. They just got a lot smarter with it. And, you know, with us, we were just young in the game and we were doing something that we enjoyed and we loved. And we didn't know that we didn't know the money that was involved.
Wow. You know, that's a great point. Well, see, here's another thing I want to spin on to that now is that over time, the industry itself has taken on another characteristic. And we can talk about this when we come back, and that is one of violence and destruction and conflict from within. The East Coast, West Coast thing, and how that kind of turned into some unfortunate situations. But it's the Book of That Radio Show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson with my main man, Eddie G. And we're talking to the articulate Yvette Money. And we'll be right back.
You have something special. You have greatness in you. Hello, I'm Les Brown, Mrs. Mamie Brown's baby boy. I want you to spread the word to your family members and friends to listen to LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. Absolutely. And let me share with you why we're going to be focusing on positive things, because whatever you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. And now more than ever, when the suicide rate has increased over 33%, when the suicide rate of young children between 5 and 11 has doubled, people feeling hopeless and stressed out and powerless. We need programming that can bring out the greatness in them. And that's what we will be focused on. When you listen, it will be an experience that will transform your life. LesBrownGreatnessRadio.com. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Hey, and we're right back. Dr. Robert Benson, Book of That Radio Show with Eddie G, engineer extraordinaire. Please continue to check us out, Book of That Radio Show, anywhere where you get your podcasts. We always have great guests, as we do today, Miss Yvette Money. And when we left off, we were talking a little bit about how the narrative and the demeanor, if you will, or the perception of the rap game has changed, or hip hop. It went from being this storytelling venue that Yvette talked about before to one where we were looking at literal gang violence and people literally being shot and killed. We want to ask Yvette why she thinks that happened, and do you think that we'll ever get to a point where we can tone it back down to where it's this Disney storytelling again, if ever it'll come back that way again?
You know, everything wasn't Disney storytelling during my era, but we respect the fact that certain things should be underground and some things should be what they call the radio version of the record. And
Okay.
if it was underground, it was only people, you know, like-minded like you that will actually be exposed to that type of music and material. And radio version was more happy, you know, more respectful to adults and children. And that game has changed, you know, during the time of to me, with the Biggie and Tupac era. And the only way that I can pretty much give you my analogy of that thing, that whole thing and how that went down is like, say, for instance, you have like two parents who really raised a good child in the home. You taught them values, you put them through school, and then you have this bad seed that just come up and start hanging with your child and really have nothing invested as far as what you invested in your child, and don't care what you have invested with your child. They just want to turn that child out to be like them. And I really feel like those type of investors um, started to come on the scene, and they didn't care about what was built in hip hop and who did it, who done it. They just wanted to put their mark on it however they could. And if they're not coming from where good spirits and energy is coming from, all they can bring to the table was bad spirit and energy to the hip hop game. And that's what happened. And because they had money and because they had say so, and because some of the real big investors in the game didn't care because, you know, and I try to say this without no prejudice, but it's where we're all young black artists in this game. And to me, it's like, let them be reckless. Who cares? You know, and I think that's where we pretty much got lost because people pretty much stopped caring. And I think where the people stopped caring is because of the ones who actually that was in hip hop and put hip hop out there. I hate to sound like I'm rambling because I'm trying to be careful with what I say when it comes down to this.
Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Because you have to be careful with a lot of things, but I think I'm just leave it there. It's just a couple bad seeds got into the game and turned the game totally out, and it totally went left, not caring about the adults and the younger children. The respect was lost, and that's what happened to hip hop.
I agree.
I don't want to
And
be rambling on.
oh, but you're right. You're right. And I think as time went on, as I think it became more because that was real. A lot of that was real because it was they were talking about where they came from. And now when you listen to the music, it's going leaning towards more money and partying and that kind of stuff again. And you don't really see like the beef thing going on anymore. You know, it's more people, as you said, putting on a persona and just they have a brand that they're trying to keep out there. So I don't see the violence anymore. I think that's pretty much minimized right now.
And to be honest with you, it wasn't a persona. Once like the bad seeds that I'm talking about got into the game, these were really street dudes that got into
Yeah.
the game.
Yeah.
And these are still street dudes that are in the game. You know, it's not a beef anymore. The game the game is really real now. I don't know what they're saying, but you know, they're so sensitive now in this game too, because back in the day, you know, we did battles, we got over the battles, we had fun with the battles. It was up to you to
Yeah.
go back and write something stronger and come back harder. You know, now everybody's sensitive, everybody carrying guns, and nobody cares anymore. And and it's crack baby era. You know, they're all grown now, and they're they don't you know, they don't feel. I think people are not feel. They don't feel anything anymore. You know, and everything is all about winning. No matter how you win, you know, if it's I take you out of here and I won, you know, because life isn't being valued anymore. And all of that has now came into the game of hip hop. I don't even know what they're rapping about anymore. When you know, we were saying that the beefing and they're not beefing no more. I don't even know what they're rapping about. It's mumbo jumbo rap to me. I think a lot of all of this stuff that they got going on when they do decide to beef or come at each other is all social media related. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
it's whatever they're talking about because it's to me it's not in the rhymes anymore. You know, you see guns all on the videos, you see twerking, and no lyrics, nothing rhymes or anything. and it's horrible. I don't like, I don't even call it hip hop. It's not hip hop.
Well,
I don't know what they
okay.
call it anymore because I'm not putting a hip hop stamp on it. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I don't know. I hate it with a passion.
I think that you bring up a really, really good point. I think the thing that even further exasperates it is that the media's teasing of it. That it's like things can't stay quiet or at an even keel for so long before someone does something to instigate or to put two factions against each other. It's like it's nonstop. But Yvette, that's a great point. But I'll give you a second here. I want you to talk a little bit about the fact that you're an author now, correct?
Yes, I am an author, and I was one of those hip hop artists that was underground at one, and I had the little radio version too. And in my book, it's the same way. I try to separate, what still needs to be separated as far as what's for children and what's for adults. And I write
Right.
for adults. Nothing is for children, and it's based off my play that I had out there called The Lifestyle. It's a trilogy. So part one is out right now, and and I think it's very entertaining. The first book is based on teenagers going to college and actually getting away from parents and learning a lot of things, when, which a lot of children do. I try to keep it relatable, and they use a lot of language. That my first book have a lot of language in it because, I was once a teenager. When you were away from your parents, the way we talk to each other,
Right.
hey,
Right.
so, so just to warn
Right.
people, that's what, my books start off teenagers first going to college, so it's
Cool.
it's really fun. It's entertaining.
You say you do plays as well. How is that getting into that, writing rhymes and rap as a young person, and then moving on and then starting to hone your craft into making plays and books? How was that transition?
That was really good. That was a real good transition. I think writing rhymes allowed me to be a better writer, as far as going into the theater industry, Like I said, it was all story. So now I just have more time to write a bigger story. And that's pretty much what theater is.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, Yvette Money. Yvette, why don't you tell the audience how they can get in touch with you and some things that you got coming up? Because it's been a distinct pleasure having you on the show.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Monica Yvette Money Kitt, right there on the screen. Twitter is just Yvette Money with a Y. And MoolahEntertainment.com is my website. And you can also purchase the book on Amazon Prime as well. Not Amazon Prime, but it was just Amazon. You can go on Amazon, type in The Lifestyle. Part one is called Where Sexuality Begins, and they can purchase the book that way too.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show with us, Yvette. Eddie G.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's always good to have some classic hip hop people come through, because that's my era,
Yeah.
and that was, like you said, it was a lifestyle. It was what you did. It's what everybody thought they were rappers. Everybody, just like when we were little kids, everybody thought they were kung fu artists. When you come out of a Bruce
Yes.
Lee movie, when you hear somebody on the radio, you thought you could rap and you couldn't.
Yeah.
But we
Yeah,
appreciate you
exactly.
coming on. We have to get you
I
back on to
appreciate
talk a
you
little more,
having me.
because it's been great.
Yes, it was really fun. I enjoyed my time here with you guys. Hand me back anytime.
All right. Sounds like a real plan and aptly stated by Ed the Man. And of course, Yvette, thank you so much for joining us. And this is the Book of Dad radio show. I'm Dr. Robert Benson with my main Eddie G. And of course, the articulate Yvette Money. Thank you so much. But as usual, we're going to close out the show with a quote. Now, my quote this time goes like this. It's the most supportive beams of any building are very, very seldom seen. Book of Dad radio show is Dr. Robert Benson. And we'll talk to you next time.